Welcome to the most detailed Amazon FBA tutorial for beginners. If you're just starting out with Amazon FBA, this video will walk you through everything step by step. How to set up your account, find and source a profitable product, create listings that sell, launch, promote, and even scale your store once sales start coming in. But we didn't just stop there. Throughout the tutorial, you'll also hear insights from a $1 million FBA seller, my friend Ron. As I explain the process, Ron will jump in with real-world tips, mistakes to avoid, and the mindset that helped him succeed. By the end of this video, you'll understand the full journey, what to expect, how to take your first steps, and how to keep moving forward without burning out. Let's dive right in and get started. First, let's meet Ron.
I'm Ron. I've been selling on Amazon for about, I'd say already 3 to 4 years, something like that. I was selling with my own brand on Amazon, I think around 2 million euros. So we're mostly selling in Germany, also sold a little while in the US, but the platform itself is like similar everywhere.
Now that you have met Ron, let's get started by quickly talking about the mindset and expectations you need to set for yourself.
Set proper expectations. Don't expect that you will become a millionaire in like a year. So Amazon is very tough, especially since Amazon is already like a popular marketplace in many countries for years to come, or for like many years, I mean. So there's a lot of competition, especially in the US market.
So keep what Ron said in mind. Selling on Amazon is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It takes focus, patience, and consistent efforts to see success. Above all else, it takes commitment. With that said, let's get started by discussing the pros and cons of selling on Amazon. Step number 1, why sell on Amazon? You might be asking, why Amazon? Why should I sell here versus other platforms like eBay, Shopify, or my own website? Well, there are some big advantages to choosing Amazon FBA for your business. And chief among these is Amazon's huge customer base. Amazon is the largest online store in the US and one of the largest in the world. The website receives over 2.5 billion visits a month, and almost 40% of all online sales in the US are made on Amazon. In short, selling on Amazon puts your product in front of a significantly larger audience than if you started your own site. The next one is a 2-for-1, FBA Logistics and Prime. With FBA, you tap into Amazon's world-class logistics network. Once you've got a product, the supplier can ship it right to the Amazon warehouse. Then, when a customer places an order, Amazon gets the product to them quickly. This is a must because in a world where people demand both convenience and speed, getting your product to the customer as quickly, efficiently, and reliably as possible is no longer an option. With FBA though, that won't be a problem because customers with Amazon Prime automatically get free 2-day shipping on all FBA orders. The next huge perk is outsourcing customer service. If there's any issue with the product or the customer decides to send it back, Amazon handles the whole process for no additional charge. This is a huge advantage. You don't have to individually pack boxes every night and ship them out in the morning or deal with returns.
Amazon has the whole fulfillment in place, so you can store all your products there and they can ship it for you. So that's like the whole thing you don't need to focus on, which is like time consuming if you would need to ship everything yourself.
Then there's also the trust associated with a household name like Amazon. When customers order your products, they know they'll get fast shipping and reliable customer service. As a beginner then, listing on Amazon allows you to piggyback on the trust Amazon has spent years building. Another significant benefit closely tied to consumer trust is the high conversion rate Amazon has. This advantage is straightforward. Customers are more likely to buy from Amazon than from an unknown, potentially shady website. Don't take my word for it. Here's what Ron had to say.
The pro, of course, is that there's traffic on the platform. Like everyone knows Amazon. Their credit card is connected to the platform. They trust the platform as well. So let's say like on Amazon, we were able to hit like 15 to 20% conversion rates on our product listings. That's crazy high. We would never hit that on our own store, but it's all because you're in the Amazon ecosystem.
It also doesn't hurt that Amazon's site is optimized to convert visitors into buyers. But we'll touch on this later in the video. There's something else Amazon offers that no other platform does, and that's its global reach and operational scale. Once you master Amazon in the US, you can easily expand to other Amazon marketplaces like Canada, Europe, etc. Amazon handles international shipping and customer support in local languages if you use their programs. So, your business can scale globally over time using the same platform. This is what Ron experienced, remember? He started out selling in Germany, but eventually moved into the US market too. There's one last huge and often missed advantage, especially if you aren't very tech savvy, and that is that there's no need to build or update a website. Unlike starting a shop on Shopify, where you'd have to design a site and pay for ads to get traffic, on Amazon, you can create a listing and immediately be in a marketplace where people are searching for products. Amazon is often the first and only stop for many online shoppers. For example, they'll search for yoga mat on Amazon rather than Google. By having your product on Amazon, you're where the customers already are. So, to recap, Amazon offers a vast customer base, a pre-existing huge logistics network, consumer trust, high conversion rates, global scale, and convenience. Okay, we've seen the reasons to sell on Amazon. Now, let's look at the reasons not to. In other words, what are the cons? Well, I asked Ron this very question, and this is what he said.
Amazon is very, very strict. So I got my account blocked twice. I got products deactivated for 4 months while I had like tens and thousands of euros worth of stock. So you need to be able to handle that. And then you might think, oh, I'm going to contact Amazon and then they will help me out. Well, they don't really care. You're just a number. If you are able to eventually call them, you get like connected to like an Indian team. Nothing against Indians, of course, but like you assume that you're getting helped from your own country and helped like in the way you expect it to, because you're having such a close relationship with the platform. And oftentimes those people at the customer service are also very limited because they're all remote. They have like very specific small tasks, so they can't really do anything. So I was emailing Amazon every single day when I was deactivated and it didn't matter at all.
Now, there was a way that Ron was able to work around this issue that we'll highlight later. However, he does speak an unfortunate truth. No matter how large you grow your brand, you're still barely a drop in a bucket for a massive company like Amazon, and it can be hard to get help when you need it. Still, the potential headaches are worth it. So, if selling on Amazon is the right move, what business model should you adopt? Generally speaking, there are 4 main ways to sell on Amazon. Retail and online arbitrage. This involves sourcing products cheaply from one market and selling them in another, pocketing the difference as profit. Wholesale. This is where you buy directly from big brands or distributors. Private label. This is where you find existing products from manufacturers, but brand them with your logo and packaging. In other words, you're building name recognition for yourself. And lastly, handmade. Products you manufacture yourself, usually in relatively low numbers. Spoiler alert, private labeling is the model that I and Ron both recommend for beginners. And here's Ron explaining why.
It depends on your goals. So if you just want to make some money, you can just sell random products and get some sales coming in. Like if that's your goal, you want to do it next to your job for fun, go for it. But if you want to build a real business through Amazon, then you really need to start building a brand. Focus on how you can differentiate you from the competitors, how you can make yourself unique. So you will only win it by having a certain branding, product features, messaging, story around your product.
Exactly, and that's why this video is going to focus on private label selling on Amazon. Step 2, FBA versus FBM. If you want to sell on Amazon, there are only 2 ways to fulfill orders. FBA, fulfillment by Amazon, or FBM, fulfillment by merchants. We've been discussing FBA, but let's define both clearly and understand their pros and cons in very simple terms. Don't worry, throughout this section and the rest of the video, we'll use a glossary with important FBA terms. The first time we introduce a new word, the glossary will pop up on the screen. All right, let's get started. FBA, fulfillment by Amazon, means you, the seller, send your product to Amazon's warehouse, and then the Amazon staff will store, pick, pack, and ship the product to the customer. They'll also handle the returns. While all this costs money, in exchange, you get fast shipping and happier customers with much less legwork on your end. FBM, Fulfillment by Merchants, means you, the seller, handle storage and organize the shipping to get the product to the customer. On top of that, you will still need to pay Amazon a cut from each sale for using the platform. So, which route is better for a beginner? For new private label sellers, FBA is the recommended route. Why? Well, we touched on this briefly in the last section, but FBA sellers can automatically offer Prime shipping. Not only does this significantly boost sales, but Prime customers, and there are over 200 million of them, often filter for Prime-only products. They're used to getting their products quickly and often won't settle for anything else. And as I mentioned, you'll be doing a lot less legwork, which means you'll have more time to research potential products, improve your Amazon store pages, manage ad campaigns, and make other tweaks and adjustments to boost your profitability. FBA is also especially helpful if you don't have the space to store items yourself. After all, if you're just starting, you probably don't have a warehouse, let alone the staff and logistics chain. However, that doesn't mean that FBA is the best in every situation. Let's take a closer look at the pros and cons of each model. Let's start with FBA. FBA pros. Hands-off fulfillment. Amazon deals with the entire logistics chain. Prime eligibility. Your products get the Prime logo and are automatically eligible for fast free shipping. This will boost sales and conversion rates. Not every item has prominent add to cart or buy now buttons next to it. To be eligible for a buy box, you have to be a professional seller, be selling a new, not used item, and the item must be available to ship immediately. At the end of the day though, it's Amazon's in-house algorithm that determines which merchant gets the buy box, and it is widely believed that sellers using FBA get preferential treatments. Since over 80% of sales are completed using a buy box, you will always want to try to snag it. Lastly, FBA offers unparalleled scalability. If your sales suddenly triple, Amazon can handle the surge in orders. That said, everything has its downsides, and FBA is no different. So let's look at some FBA cons. I'll start by addressing the elephant in the room: fees. FBA charges fulfillment and storage fees. For example, Amazon takes a fee per unit shipped based on size and weight and charges monthly storage for your stock. These fees can eat into profit, especially for low-priced or very large items. We'll take a much closer look at how quickly these fees can compound later in this tutorial. You also have less control over packaging. Amazon will ship in its own branded boxes. You cannot include personalized notes or special inserts, like a 10% off coupon for the next month, because Amazon controls the fulfillment process and doesn't allow this. You also lose control over inventory prep. You need to ship inventory in bulk to Amazon's warehouses and follow their packaging rules. Lastly, another potential issue: storage limits. Amazon initially limits the amount of inventory you can send and charges extra for inventory stored for more than 6 months, 181 days. You need to carefully monitor your stock to avoid holding onto unsold goods. Alright, that's enough about FBA for now. What about FBM? What are its strengths and weaknesses? Let's start with FBM pros. The most commonly cited benefit of FBM is also the most deceiving, and that's that there are no FBA fulfillment fees. You'll still be paying a fee for each item sold using the individual seller plan or a monthly subscription professional plan. Still, you don't pay the extra costs associated with FBA, at least not to Amazon. While handling everything yourself can mean higher margins, especially on bulky or heavy products where FBA fees are high, you'll still be paying someone or spending your time to manage, pick, pack, and ship each product, not to mention handle all customer returns. Still, while I'd argue that this isn't a real benefit, the next one is. FBM is better suited for certain products than FBA. If you sell a very heavy or bulky item that is expensive for Amazon to store and ship, like gym equipment or furniture, FBA fees are too high to justify. Also, if you sell low volume, custom or handmade items, you should store them yourself until they sell. FBA is designed for mass-produced products to be sold in bulk. Lastly, you'll regain control. You'll oversee how the product is stored, packed, and shipped, and have the ability to include unique notes or promotions along with the products. So I'd argue that there are only two main benefits of FBM, but there are certainly more FBM cons for us to talk about. The first is that there is no Prime by default. Your listing won't have the Prime badge or Prime shipping unless you qualify for a separate program that no beginner is getting into. As we already saw, non-Prime items get much less sales. You'll also need to consider the workload. Every order that comes in is work for you. You'll need to pack it, buy postage, and send it out within a day or two to satisfy your customers. Put differently, if you get 50 orders in a week, that's 50 packages you need to prepare. You'll also be the one shouldering the customer service burden. You'll handle customer emails, inquiries like, "Where's my package?" and any returns or issues that pop up. This can become time-consuming, especially when selling at scale. With FBA, Amazon's customer service takes care of most buyer questions and returns for FBA orders, although you may occasionally need to get involved. The final major drawback is the shipping costs. You need to negotiate good shipping rates or use discounted postage. No matter what provider you ultimately choose, each item will be more expensive to ship and slower to arrive than if you used FBA. So, how do you know which to use and when? Many sellers actually use a mix. For most of your smaller, cheaper products, you want to use FBA. But if you also sell oversized products, you'll want to do FBM to save on fees. For example, if you mainly sell swimwear, pool toys, life jackets, and floaties, but also list kayaks, then consider using FBA for the bulk of your inventory, but handling the kayaks yourself. You might also want to use FBM if you want to test an item with very few units. That way, you'll avoid any FBA fees, especially if they don't sell. In short, for a beginner launching a brand from scratch, FBA is the way to go for most products because of the insane advantages offered by Prime, the possibility to scale easily, and the ability to reap the benefits of Amazon's pre-built, efficient, and globe-spanning logistics network. Before we move on, let's recap what you, as the seller, do, and what you don't have to do when using FBA. You are the one researching profitable products, sourcing them from suppliers, and creating your product listings. It's also your job to ship that inventory into an Amazon fulfillment center and to run the ads and marketing that drive customers to your listings. But once your products are at Amazon's warehouse, a lot of the heavy lifting is off your shoulders. You don't ship orders to customers or store products at home. You don't deal with returns, refunds, or most customer support requests. And you don't have to pack or label every box. Amazon takes care of all that for you. Alright, so assuming that FBA is the right choice for you, let's find a product to sell. Step 3. Product research. Finding a profitable product. Although this is the first step in the FBA process, it is arguably the most important, as failing to source a product that people want to buy at a competitive price makes everything else irrelevant. That's why it is essential that you choose the right product to sell using product research. At its most basic, product research involves finding a product with high demand, people want to buy it, and minimal competition, so you have a chance to stand out. Although Ron and I didn't discuss the details of this process, he still highlighted its importance very early on in our conversation.
Yeah, as a beginner, I would do really good research.
And this is what we will learn to do in this section. To get started, I'll explain what does and does not make a good product to sell. After that, we'll cover the 2 steps to product research: manual brainstorming and using product research tools. Beginner product rules: what and what not to sell. So, before we can talk about what you should sell, let's discuss what not to sell. Avoiding these rookie mistakes is crucial for success. First and foremost, make sure to avoid selling low quality or cheap products on Amazon. There are several reasons for this. On one hand, inexpensive items are often made cheaply and arrived damaged, leading to unhappy customers and negative reviews that will seriously harm your store's visibility. Accumulating too many bad reviews early on can jeopardize your Amazon FBA journey, and according to Ron, it is one of the reasons that it takes months to build a successful FBA business.
Like, you will not be profitable right away because you need to build up your reviews, you need to build up your ranking, and that takes a lot of time. You have some programs like the Find program, you will get more reviews through Amazon, that also costs money.
Since he already had his own brand, Ron was invited to join the Vine program, an invite-only initiative that helps established businesses get started on Amazon by generating early, unbiased reviews. It is a program that you unfortunately won't have access to at the start, so it is important to keep negative reviews to a minimum. That's just not doable with cheap items. There's another reason not to sell cheap products. They face intense competition due to the low barrier to entry. Selling a product for $8 after buying it for $2 might seem profitable, but competitors will quickly undercut your price. This can lead to a downward price spiral where you end up selling at a loss or are unable to compete effectively. There are a number of restricted and gated categories you need to watch out for before placing any stock orders. First are medical or claims-based products. Anything that suggests it can treat or cure a condition, like supplements, cosmetics with medical claims, or CBD oils. These require strict compliance and are usually more trouble than they're worth. Second, food contact items and baby products are highly regulated and face additional safety checks. So, unless you are prepared for extra scrutiny, it's best to avoid them. Third, hazardous items like hazmat materials, lithium batteries, or even strong magnets often involve higher storage costs and complex shipping rules. And finally, there are licensed IP products, anything that uses logos, characters, or other trademark designs. Even experienced sellers avoid these because one mistake can lead to takedowns or serious legal costs. Beyond restricted and gated categories, there are also certain types of products that beginners should stay away from altogether. First, avoid products that are fragile or heavy. I don't just mean cheaply made. I mean inherently fragile items like glassware or ceramics. They break easily, lead to customer complaints, and you'll end up paying Amazon extra to bubble wrap every shipment. Oversized or heavy products are another headache because storage and shipping fees quickly eat into your margins and limit how much stock you can keep in inventory. Next, don't pick items that only sell seasonally, like Christmas decorations or Halloween costumes. They might look profitable in the short term, but most of the year they won't move at all, leaving you stuck paying storage fees. Also, steer clear of the patented or trademarked items. The legal risks are not worth it. And finally, avoid niches dominated by a few big brands. If you're trying to sell in categories like sportswear, where Nike and Adidas own the market, it'll be almost impossible for a new seller to stand out. So now that you know what to avoid, let's look at what makes a product a good fit for beginners. The best products are small and light because they minimize your FBA fees and keep storage and shipping costs low. They're also simple, ideally with no electronics, so there is less that can break or malfunction. Look for items with steady, year-round demand instead of chasing seasonal spikes. And finally, the sweet spot is a product that has a clear review gap you can beat, meaning you spotted something with consistent sales but weak competition, like poor photos, bad packaging, or low-quality reviews. If you can improve on those areas, you'll have a much better chance at carving out your own space in the market. There's one more component of this list, but it's so important that we need to talk about it separately. Value. No, I'm not talking about price. I mean the actual value your item provides to whoever buys it. When anyone decides to buy an item, we consider factors beyond price, including the following questions. How badly do I need this? Is it urgent or can it wait? How often do we expect to use the item? Every day, once a week, or once a year? What is the quality of the materials? What is the brand's reputation? Are they well known for their quality control and innovative streak, or do they sell junk and have terrible customer service reps? How convenient is this purchase for me? In other words, should I buy this from another merchant, like in person or online, because it'll be easier for me? All of these factors and many more make an item valuable, and you will always need to compete on value and not price. Just listen to what Ron has to say.
So there's a lot of competition, especially in the US market. If you're going to sell there, I think about 80% of the sellers on the US market are Chinese sellers. So they basically ship directly from China and are able to offer really cheap prices. So on price, you will never win it on Amazon. So you need to find a way to be different than the rest or find a gap in the market with your product to make it happen.
All right, now that you've got a good understanding of what to look for, let's get started with the first step of our product research strategy, the manual method, brainstorming, and trend spotting. So this strategy is pretty self-explanatory. Start browsing online marketplaces and social media. Look at popular products. Here are some simple ways to start brainstorming. Look at your own life and hobbies. Think about items you use regularly or problems you face. Is there a product that could be better? Starting with your interests can be great because you understand the customer. Create a list of your hobbies, activities, or passions, and then list all the related products. Don't worry if the ideas seem generic. We will evaluate them later. The key is that if you would buy it, others will too. See what's trending. Be aware of trends on social media, especially on TikTok and Instagram. A new trend or fad can signal a product opportunity. While you can always just doom scroll, a more effective way to go about this is to use Google Trends, a free search tool to look for a product or category and see if interest is rising, and more importantly, why. Around the house walkthrough. One classic tip. Literally walk around your home and look around. Is there a newer version of something that could sell well? Check other marketplaces for ideas. Browsing sites like Etsy, eBay, or even Alibaba can spark ideas. While you could always look through Amazon too, why not look at their competitors first? If you find an item you like on Alibaba, then see if it's available in Amazon. If not, well, then you just found a promising product. Lastly, you'll also want to focus on the niches. It is often said that the riches are in the niches, and it's undoubtedly true. You'll also want to target a specific group of customers with a specific need or wants. Before moving on to the next section, make a long list of potential product ideas. There's no such a thing as a bad product idea at this stage. We will analyze them next. All right, with a list of 10 or 20 items, let's move on to the next section. Using tools, product research software. As great as it is to brainstorm, it has its limitations. You won't be using any data to make truly informed, evidence-based decisions. And this is where product research tools come in. These tools provide data like estimated monthly sales, revenue, number of sellers, reviews, search volume for products, and much more. In this tutorial, we'll be using Helium 10 to find demand, check the competition, and pick keywords. For those of you who want to find a winning product, click the link in the description to get started with Helium 10. And with my special discount, you will automatically get 20% off for your first 6 months. All right, so I'm logged into my Helium 10 account and sitting on the central dashboard. Move your cursor over products in the upper left corner, hover over Discover Product Opportunities in the drop-down menu, and select Find Products to Sell. This will open the tool that, in my opinion, is the best for product research, the black box. In short, the black box tool allows you to filter Amazon's product database by criteria. Remember, we're looking for products that are lightweight, small, durable, and easy to handle, and above all else, genuinely valuable. Let's get started. First things first, we need to pick categories to sell in. If you look through our options, you'll see many categories to avoid. For this video, I'll pick the categories Home and Kitchen, Kitchen and Dining, and Patio, Lawn and Garden. Still, I strongly recommend you pick a product that you have at least a passing interest in. Alright, now we need to set a price. I strongly recommend selling products priced between $25 and $70. This range strikes a balance between cost, quality, and profit margin. Also, anything higher than $70 might not be an impulse buy. That is, a potential buyer may spend longer considering whether or not to go through with a purchase. We want to avoid that at all costs. We want our product to solve the customer's problem quickly, let them make the purchase, and move on with their day. For this reason, I'll use the price range $35 to $50. Next up is competition. In short, the more reviews a niche has, the more competitive it becomes, making it harder to carve out a share of the market. There's no right answer here, but you're going to want to stick with either easy or moderate. For this video, I'll use moderate. This one is really important. Product size. I actually love how Helium 10 changed the setting. It used to be very confusing, forcing you to pick strange pound and ounce or kilogram and gram combinations. Now, all you need to do is say, yes, I want it to fit in a shoebox. All right, the last category here is monthly revenue. There's no right or wrong answer here, and it should vary based on your goals. Still, a word of caution. The larger the amount, the higher your costs, procurement, storage, and shipping, will be. I'll start with the reasonable figure of $2,000. I'll type that in and hit search in the bottom right corner. In a few seconds, we have hundreds of items that fit our criteria. There's so much here to cover, but I'll give you the crash course so you know how to interpret what you're looking at. Okay, so let's work our way from left to right. Something to keep in mind, you can always sort by any of these categories. You'll see a small picture of the product on the left, as well as its name and Amazon Standard Identification Number, or ASIN. Searching that code on Amazon will take you right to the product. Next up is the item's Category Bestseller Rank, BSR. In short, this is a way to identify how popular an item is within its particular niche. Parent-level sales sounds more complicated than it is. This represents the total number of items sold by all sellers of a product over the last 30 days. By the way, parent ASINs are an item's generic code, and child ASINs are related to the parent ASINs and represent a variation of that product. For example, a coffee mug has its parent ASIN, and each color variation available also has a unique child ASIN too. With that in mind, you can skip over ASIN sales. Focus on parent-level sales instead. Now that you understand what an ASIN is and the two types, parent-level revenue is exactly what it sounds like. The total amount of revenue, all variations of a particular product made in 30 days. Again, don't worry about ASIN revenue because that's going to give you an incomplete picture. One of the most important settings up next, reviews. This lets you quickly visualize how a product is being received. We'll dive more into how important reviews are shortly. The next three categories, seller, seller country/region, and brand, aren't going to be super relevant for what we're doing today. Still, be wary of competing for a product if it's sold by a Chinese seller. You can't compete on price. Or if you recognize the brand name, that means the niche is likely too saturated already. Last year's sale simply tells you how many items were sold by all sellers, and product identifiers give you additional item codes that will come in handy when you try to actually procure an item. Because you said everything should fit inside a shoebox, most of your products will be counted as a large standard size when shipping. But you might also have a few that count as small standard size. We're not done. Using the horizontal scroll bar at the bottom of your screen, move it all the way to the right. There. Now we've got a bit more data to consider. Weight will matter, so always consult Amazon's website to get up-to-date shipping fees. Best sales period isn't very useful on its own as a metric, but the next one, age month, is. This tells you how long the product has been listed on Amazon. This is a great indication of demand. After all, if a product has been listed for 150 months and still makes over $4,000 a month in sales, then demand remains steady. If a product is only 5 months old and demand has halved, however, then it seems to be a trend that's already on its way out the door. Number of images. Now, as weird as it might sound, this is actually one of the most valuable metrics. The number, quality, and variety of images are one of the main ways Amazon ranks sellers. If you see a product with only 2 images included, for example, that signals an area you can easily improve on. It also usually indicates the rest of that product page could be improved too. Now, that's all I have to say about the black box tool. Still, we're not done. Before we move on, make sure to copy the ASIN of any product. I'll go with the first one. There we go. All right, let's hover over products again. Move your cursor over Understand Competitors and Market Trends at the bottom of the list and select Analyze Keywords and Products. This is where you can track thousands of ASINs you've identified using the black box. Hit Add Competitors, select the US market, paste the ASIN into the field, and click Track Competitor. After adding your item, it'll take a bit for Helium 10 to fetch all the relevant data. So I'll see you when it's done. Now, much of the data we'll see here will be repeats from the black box, but there is one significant difference: the LQS, or Listing Quality Score. The LQS is a composite score that tells you, at a glance, how optimized the product page is. In other words, it looks at everything on the product page: text, images, reviews, and more, to tell you how good the top sellers page is. A low LQS suggests there's an opportunity for you to improve the product page, which Amazon is more likely to rank higher. Conversely, a high LQS of 9 or above suggests it's probably best to stay away, as the seller likely already has an established market, good reviews, and solid product pages. There's one last tool I want to show you before we move on, and that's Cerebro, a keyword analysis tool. A keyword, by the way, is any word or phrase that a customer types into Amazon's search bar to find a product. To help customers find your product, you'll want to include as many high-volume keywords as possible that are related to your product, and Cerebro is one way to do that. Okay, make sure to copy the ASIN of your product page before switching tools. After you've got your ASIN, move your cursor to Products. Hover over Find Keywords to drive traffic, and select Uncover Competitor Keywords. Copy and paste your ASIN into the search bar and click Get Keywords. That's it. Let's give it a little bit of time to fetch the data. For this one product, Cerebro has identified over 1,800 different keywords and breaks them down using a ton of different metrics. While we'll explore the science of keyword research in detail a bit later, there's one data point you should consider at this point: the Cerebro IQ score. A high score indicates that a keyword generates a significant amount of search volume compared to the number of sellers ranking for it. In other words, a high score is good, a low score is bad, and the more high-scoring keywords there are for a product, the more room there is to make your listing stand out. Now, looking at tools like Helium 10 is fantastic, but sometimes you need to head over to the source. Click on the image of your product right here, and that will redirect you to that product's Amazon page. If the data for a product looks good on Helium 10, make sure that it matches up with what you see on this page. Read the title and product description. Make sure it's available for Prime shipping. See how many images and videos of the product there are, as well as the quality of their production. Something else to do: click the number of reviews next to the aggregate score to pull up all reviews associated with an item. Admittedly, the product I'm using as an example here isn't great because the score of 4.6 is already high, but it'll work as a demonstrator. Read both the positive and negative reviews, but place more emphasis on the negative ones. You'll want to look for a recurring pattern and see if there's a common issue that you can solve. A simple but effective way to find winning products is what I call the pain equals money method. All you have to do is read through the reviews and spot the common complaints. Those pain points are your opportunities. For example, if customers say a handle feels flimsy, you can ask your supplier to make it with thicker silicone. If buyers are frustrated because the product is smaller than they expected, you can solve that by providing a clear and accurate size chart. If straps or clips keep breaking, reinforce the seams to make the product last longer. And if customers complain about cheap packaging, upgrade it with a premium box that instantly improves the perceived value. Each of these small fixes turns customer pain into profit because you're offering a better version of what people already want. The second way to approach product research is by using the gap matrix checklist. Think of it like a scorecard. You line up your competitors, check off what they do well, and then look for the gaps. For example, let's say we're looking at rain jackets. Competitor 1 is pretty strong overall. Competitor 2 doesn't have strong product photos. Competitor 3 has issues with durability. That's where our opportunity comes in. If we launch a rain jacket with stronger material and better photos, we're instantly filling those gaps. And the proof is right there in the 1 to 3 star reviews. People complaining about things like the strap broke or the photos were confusing. All right, now that you've got a good handle on product research, I assume you've got a product in mind. Let's see how it does with our validation checklists. By combining your brainstorm lists and the data from Helium 10, you should have a product or two that you think fit the bill. They might, but here's a final checklist to make sure your products fit with your goals. Ask the questions. Does it fit your price target? Does it regularly and reliably have the monthly sales amount you're aiming for? How many reviews do the top 10 sellers have for the products? Products with 200 or 300 reviews have yet to be captured by a single seller. Can we be better? In other words, is there something you can improve on? What does Helium 10 estimate your profit per unit will be? We'll look at this in greater detail later. Is the size and weight okay? In other words, does it fit within a shoebox? Do you foresee any legal issues? This can include patents and trademarks or restricted items. Are there any items that would be dangerous, corrosive, flammable, etc., or any that would be heavily regulated like food, supplements, medicine, etc.? Take your time with product research. It's normal to spend a few weeks here. Don't rush the step. If you put in the effort now, everything later, sourcing, listing, marketing, becomes easier. A little work now will save you tons of work in the future. For today's video, let's assume you've now picked a niche and a product you want to pursue. Next, we'll move on to finding a supplier for that product. Step number 4, sourcing products, finding a supplier and manufacturer. Now that you've got a product picked out, the next step is to figure out where to get the product made or purchased. In most cases for FBA private label, you'll be sourcing products from a manufacturer, often overseas like in China, through platforms like Alibaba. Let's start with the basics. First, what is Alibaba? Alibaba.com is an online marketplace like Amazon, but it's geared toward bulk buying. That's because on Alibaba, you can find manufacturers and wholesale suppliers for virtually any product. Alibaba connects you, the buyer, with the factories and trading companies, mainly in China, that can produce the product you want. You can search for your product and see many supplier listings offering it. It's a fantastic resource for connecting directly with suppliers. Other sourcing options. There are plenty of other options for you to choose from too. There are other business-to-business marketplaces like Global Sources and Made in China that offer a large selection of products from any niche imaginable. And there are niche-specific ones as well, like Jewel for clothes and apparel and Barrel Hub for whiskey. Yes, there is a marketplace to buy whiskey by the barrel. Still, I recommend sticking with Alibaba because of its unmatched depth. Every niche is represented and easily accessible. Contacting suppliers. Once you find some supplier listings for your product in Alibaba, you want to reach out to them. I'll pull up Alibaba and walk you through this process step by step. All right, while you want to look for a specific product you already identified, I'll use a water bottle for my example. Okay, I'll type stainless steel water bottle and hit enter. I'll choose this bottle. Review the product and make sure it's exactly what you're looking for. You will also want to spend the time researching the seller. For example, I'll open the seller's profile in another tab. You'll want to do a deep dive into them and their history. I've developed a handy supplier scorecard for you to use. Here are a few factors to consider when choosing a supplier. Price. This is pretty straightforward. Are there any other suppliers that sell the product cheaper? MOQ, or the minimum order quantity. This is the smallest order size the supplier is willing to supply for a bulk discount. If the MOQ they offer is too high for you starting out, ask if they can do a smaller trial order. Oftentimes, sellers will make exceptions. Lead time. In short, how far in advance do you need to order the product for it to arrive at the FBA center? This will vary significantly from supplier to supplier and product to product, but it's essential to keep this in mind. After all, you don't want your stock to run out. Not only will you not make any money, but you'll also lose the coveted buy box if you manage to get it. If it takes 30 days for the supplier to get the product, an additional 20 days at sea, and another 5 on land to arrive at the warehouse, then you need to plan at least 60 days in advance. Communication. As a buyer, you'll be in regular contact with your supplier. How easy are they to get a hold of? Do you have a good working relationship with your point of contact? Keep this in mind. Quality. What materials are the product made out of? Does the product or company have a reputation for making high-quality products or cheap junk? There's also the payment terms to consider. Ordering in bulk is not the same as buying 1 or 2 items. If you're ordering a few samples, then paying directly on platform or holding money in escrow is normal. For bulk purchases though, the seller will not let you pay later, but they also won't make you pay everything up front. Instead, you'll likely sign a contract committing to the deal and paying 30% upfront. As a new unknown customer, the supplier will likely ask you to pay the remaining 70% before the product ships, a practice known as cash before shipments. A word of warning: no reputable supplier will ever ask you for everything upfront or to pay off platform. If they try, report them to Alibaba and move on. Before paying for an order, however, most sellers arrange a third-party inspection of the goods. If they don't, that's okay, but at the very least, ask the supplier for detailed photos of the finished goods before shipping. You'll want to make sure your supplier of choice has been verified by Alibaba. Being verified means Alibaba or a third party has inspected that company and ensured, yes, they are who they say they are. Scrolling down the page of My Supplier, you can see that Alibaba actually went to their physical location and verified the business. Once you've made your decision, the next step is to send them a message. While you can always opt for the Chat Now button, I recommend using the Send Inquiry button. You'll look more professional, and it's a great way to start building personal relationships with your point of contact at potential suppliers. Now you'll actually have to write the message. Here are a few tips. Briefly introduce yourself as a business. Don't worry about mentioning you're new or small. You can say you're launching a new product line. As long as they can confirm you're real and you're willing to pay, they'll be satisfied. Be specific about the product you're looking to procure. For my example, I'll tell them that I'm looking at the Xinjiao Black 750 milliliter stainless steel water bottle. Would you tell me the specifics of the bottle's partition filtration? Also, please provide pricing for 500 units and 1,000 units. Do you offer custom logo printing? Request a sample. This is very important. Always order a sample before committing to a big order. A sample is typically a single unit or a few units that the supplier sends you so you can inspect the quality. This will cost more per unit than the bulk price, and you won't be getting any free samples for quite a while. Still, it's absolutely worth it. You need to see and feel the product first and test it yourself. Whatever you do, do not skip this step. Also, don't just glance at the free sample and decide it's good enough. Inspect it thoroughly and test it as a customer would. Here is a sample inspection checklist I made for you to follow. With every product you test, ensure the size and weight match the description. It smells new or clean. It passes the drop tests. Be reasonable with this one. For example, I would want to test dropping the water bottle from around my waist or head to ensure it holds up okay, but there's no need to drop it off a 4-story building. Does the barcode fit the label area? This will be important for Amazon. Packaging and condition. How does the packaging look after traveling halfway around the world? Is it in good condition or beat up? Is the product in good condition or damaged in some way? Lastly, take some photos or videos. I've already stressed how important product images and videos are, so take a few impromptu ones when you're testing out the sample. Does the product look good? Will potential buyers agree? Once you've tested your sample and you're ready to place your first order, here are a few things to consider as you move through the process. First, there's the negotiations. Suppliers often give an initial quote a bit high, anticipating bargaining. If you receive quotes of $5 per unit from one and $3.8 from another for the same item, you can mention to the higher one that others are offering better rates and see if they can come down. Understanding costs. The more you order, the cheaper it'll typically be. For example, a supplier may quote you $5 per unit for 500 units of your product, and $4.50 per unit for 1,000 units. This is only a small part of the equation, however. Don't forget shipping costs. There are two main ways to move your product to Amazon's warehouse: by air or by sea. Air generally has two different options: express, 7 to 10 days, or standard, 10 to 15 days. However, unless you're ordering a sample, I strongly recommend moving your product by sea, even though it'll take anywhere from 30 to 45 days to arrive. It will be more cost-effective by far, and as long as you manage your logistics well, should not be a problem. With everything calculated, you're finally ready to order. There are still a couple of final things for you to consider before placing your order. The first is private labeling. Ron emphasized the importance of creating a brand, so you'll want to put your brand name or logo on the products or packaging. Suppliers will normally print your logo on the product or packaging if you meet a minimum quantity. Ask about this in a follow-up message. You'll need to provide them with artwork, like a high-res image of your logo, and most suppliers will do it for free or charge a negligible fee. You'll also want to discuss packaging with the supplier. By default, items will be shipped in a poly bag or plain box. You can upgrade to a custom box with your design if it's affordable, but you'll also want to ask them for their packing guidelines. You want to know the product will arrive safely. Another important question: where should the supplier send the products? Since you're using FBA, it makes sense to ship it to Amazon right away. That's well and good, but there's a complication. You need to follow Amazon's shipment creation process and provide labels to the supplier to put on boxes. You'll also want to make sure the product adheres to Amazon's guidelines. Many suppliers are familiar with FBA shipping and will be able to handle the process for you. All you need to do is ask. You can tell them to use DDP, Delivery Duty Paid Shipping. In short, the seller will handle and assume all the risk with making sure the products are compliant with any import restrictions, pay any fees, and file the necessary paperwork. So, in this section, we've talked about everything related to sourcing, except arguably the most important part. How many units should you order? That's a good question. And to figure that out, we'll need to start tallying everything up. Let's dive right into understanding how to calculate your profit. Step number 5, profit and understanding Amazon fees. While everyone knows profit is important, you'll be surprised at how few people actually take the time to do the math before they start selling. In this section, I'll arm you with the information and skills necessary to calculate your potential profit margin on any item. As we've already seen, Amazon FBA has several advantages, but it isn't free. I've already hinted that Amazon charges several types of fees, so let's start this section by breaking down those fees. Amazon Accounts Fee. Amazon offers sellers two plans: individual and professional. The individual plan has no monthly fee, but Amazon charges 99 cents every time you make a sale. The professional plan costs $39.99 per month, but has no per item sale fee. The Pro plan also gives access to advertising and several advanced tools. For this tutorial, we'll assume the Pro plan is the right one for you, so we'll factor in $39.99 per month. Next up is the referral fee, commission. Amazon charges a referral fee, a percentage of the sale price for every item sold. The percentage depends on the category of the product. For most categories, it's 15%. The fee varies slightly depending on the type of product, so you'll want to double check. We'll go forward assuming 15%. After this is the FBA fulfillment fee. This is the fee Amazon charges to pick, pack, and ship your item to the customer. It's a flat per unit fee based on the size and weight of the item. Amazon has a complicated chart detailing the specifics, but we already saw in the last section which two you'll be using: small standard and large standard. We'll go ahead and use $4.99 per unit. There's also the monthly storage fee to consider. Amazon US charges a flat fee for each cubic foot of warehouse space your product takes up. For most of the year, this is only 78 cents. During the peak of the holiday season, however, the price more than triples to $2.40 per cubic foot due to increased demand. While both of these are quite manageable, there is an additional long-term storage fee that kicks in after 6 months and rapidly compounds. When I say rapidly, I mean rapidly. Starting at day 181, the fee is 50 cents per cubic foot per month. If the item is still there a year after its arrival, the rate skyrockets to $6.90 per cubic foot, or 0.15% per unit, whichever is greater. That's why staying on top of your inventory is critical. We'll look at inventory management a bit later in this section. Lastly, there's the other fees, minor or optional. Most of these are optional services. For example, Amazon can label your products on a per item basis or ship your items to another warehouse for a fee. Amazon will also start charging a returns processing fee if your product has a high return rate. As a beginner, it's unlikely you will be spending on these additional features. Don't worry if that's confusing. We'll walk through an example soon. Before that though, let's quickly talk about the rule of thirds. The money map. Aim for a situation where a third of the selling price is your product costs, including manufacturing and shipping it to Amazon. All of the associated fees take up another third, and the final third is your gross profit. If you can roughly hit that, you'll have a healthy margin. Like most things with FBA, think of it as more of a guideline than anything. According to Ron, your margin can vary depending on the type of products you sell.
Yeah, and so it really depends on the product. Like if you sell a cheap product, then you have a lot more room to work with. And of course your margin. So if you have good gross margins, your product is unique, it doesn't really exist, you have a patent, like then you don't really need to worry about so much things.
Exactly. Still, using the rule of thirds will ensure you have room to deal with unforeseen expenses as they pop up. Here's a helpful shorthand way to do the math. Sale price minus Amazon fees minus product costs minus shipping minus ads equals profit. All right, with all this in mind, let's go ahead and calculate our profit using Helium 10's extension. Calculating profit with Helium 10. So, first things first, go ahead and Google Helium 10 Chrome extension. Click the top link, click Add to Chrome and confirm. That will install the Helium 10 Chrome extension, which you can always access by clicking the Helium 10 icon in the upper right corner. I'll be using this chart called the landed cost stack to break down exactly what goes into your costs. Landed costs, by the way, are just another way to say the total cost of getting the item from the supplier to the final buyer. That's the product plus freight plus duty and tax plus preparation equals the cost per unit. Keep this in mind as we work through a specific example. All right, let's head back to Amazon and see what it can do. If you want to follow along, you can copy the ASIN popping up on screen right now. I'll copy and paste the ASIN into the search bar and hit enter. Scroll down a little way until you see the alarm clock. Click on the image to open the page. All right, now we want to hit show full details of the products. There is a bunch of data here you can browse. But to pull up the profitability calculator, you'll want to click estimate net/margin on the left right here. This might look intimidating, but all we're doing is calculating our landed costs, or the total expense required to get a product from the manufacturer to the final buyer. Okay, to get accurate data, you'll have to do quite a bit of research. While some data, like the dimensions and shipping information, will be accurate, you'll need to spend a lot of time finding the unit manufacturing costs. I spent a few hours off camera tracking down the actual manufacturers of the clock and learned that I could buy it for $18.87. So I'll change the unit manufacturing cost to that. The freight cost is difficult to estimate because shipping costs fluctuate dramatically and can be impossible to calculate. To get an accurate estimate, you'd want to reach out to a shipping agent and sort out all the specifics. Still, for this video, I'll make a few assumptions. They are: the product will be shipped by sea to the US. You'll be buying less than a container load, LCL, of products. The average LCL rate per cubic meter is $200, and transporting the product to the warehouse will also cost around $200 per cubic meter. With this in mind, I'll say the freight costs to $400 per cubic meter. Reading through the product features, it contains a built-in battery backup system, with the batteries included. Select batteries from the drop-down menu next to FBA fee. That means we'll need to pay an additional 11 cents a month per item. We will also assume that the item will be in storage for 5 months. That's longer than ideal, but since you're just starting, we're giving you a little extra leeway to build your profile up and curate reviews. For this product, the referral fee type would be consumer electronics. At the time of this video's production, the tariff rate is 57.6%. That's what we will use here. As for other costs, we'll assume ads will cost us around $7.50 per sale. Make sure to switch the calculator here from percent to dollars. Factoring in all of our costs then, our profit margin sits at 20.41% for most of the year and 18.8% during the holiday season. Not too shabby. Now, if you've noticed, I saved the most important question for last. How much should you order? That's a really tough question to answer because this depends on both your budget and on product demand. All I can say is do not overorder. It's better to sell out and reorder than be stuck with 2,000 units you can't move. Ordering too much upfront can ruin your cash flow and kill your FBA business before you even begin. So, now that you know the ins and outs of FBA, let's get you your Amazon Seller Central account up and running. Step number 6, account setup and legal basics. While I won't be able to walk you step by step through the account creation process in today's video, I'll still tell you what to expect. Additionally, we'll touch on some legal aspects, especially the different ways you can structure your business, LLC versus sole proprietor. Let's get started. Creating your Amazon seller accounts. Before you get started, you'll want to gather all required information and documents. Amazon seller registration will ask you for quite a bit of info to verify your identity and business. Here's what you should have ready. Personal info. Government-issued photo ID, proof of address, a recent utility bill or bank statement with your name and address, dated within the last 3 months. This is to confirm your address. Bank account details, credit card. This is very important. Absolutely no debit card. While you can enter either, there's a pretty good chance your account will be flagged or even deleted if you go this route. Amazon doesn't want a debit card because there's no guarantee of payment. If you use a credit card, then they'll get their money no matter what. The risk is far less from their point of view, and since it's their house, you need to play by the rules. Tax information. If you are a US person, you'll provide your social security number. Amazon will have you do an online tax interview so they can send you a W-9 when it's tax time. Email address. Having all these docs prepared will make your account sign up go smoothly. All you need to do is follow the on-screen instructions. One thing to be aware of, however, is that Amazon will require a brief live verification call with a customer sales rep. You'll need to turn on your webcam and hold up your ID. The whole process should only take a few minutes. Within a few days to a few weeks, you will have your new Amazon seller account. While your account gets verified, let's take the time to talk about your new business's structure, namely, what type of organization is right for you. Individual versus LLC versus corporation. When signing up for your account, you certainly choose sole proprietor as your business type. But is that the best choice? There are only 3 main types of businesses: sole proprietorships, limited liability corporations, LLCs, and regular corporations. Let's take a look at them. Sole proprietor, individual. In short, the business isn't a separate legal entity from you. The main advantage of a sole proprietorship is that it's simple. There's no paperwork required, no licenses to acquire, and any income can be easily reported on your personal taxes. The downside, though, is that there are no legal protections in place. If something goes wrong with your business, you personally are on the hook. The next business model is a limited liability corporation. An LLC protects your personal assets from any business-related disputes. In short, an LLC is a distinct legal entity for your business. As a result, your business debts or legal problems don't become your personal problem. Another benefit is that tax-wise, nothing changes. An LLC with only one employee does not file taxes. In other words, taxes remain simple, but you gain liability protection. And that's why many small business owners, myself included, create an LLC. The last type of business is a corporation. Think Inc., C Corp, S Corp. To avoid going into too much detail, corporations are only necessary for larger, more complex organizations. An FBA store with only one employee should not be a corporation. You'll have far more paperwork and red tape to deal with and reap no benefits in return. So it's quite clear that an LLC is your best option, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's right for you. While some may suggest starting out as a sole proprietor and creating an LLC later, once your store starts bringing in money, I recommend playing it safe and getting protected as soon as possible. Yes, it means additional upfront costs. State filing fees range from $50 to $500, but the added layer of security is worth it for me. And it is for you too. If you do go this route, it's easy to update your account information when the time comes. That's well and good, I hear you say, but how do I actually create an LLC? Well, you can either do it yourself and risk making a costly mistake, or you can work with a company that files the paperwork for you. Zen Business. They will form your LLC starting at $0 plus state fees with a 100% accuracy guarantee. Check the link in the description to get your LLC started right away. Now, I want to discuss two final topics: finance and insurance. I know there have never been more engaging and interesting topics. In all seriousness, make sure you follow this advice. Create a separate bank account for your LLC. If you commingle personal and business funds in the same accounts and you're ever sued, a judge will likely rule that you violated the law and pierce the corporate veil, meaning the protection offered by your LLC is off the table. All your personal assets can now be seized as compensation. That's why it's so important to make sure your paperwork is in order and you keep yourself separated from your business. Now, let's talk about insurance. From the get-go, this won't be an issue. But if you ever sell over $10,000 worth of items in 1 month, Amazon will force you to get general liability insurance. Even before you cross that threshold, it might still be worth it if you're selling a product that has the potential to cause harm to a customer's person or property. The two products I've looked at so far, the stainless steel water bottle and the alarm clock, are somewhat risky. The clock's battery could catch fire and cause damage, and a customer could one day claim that the water bottle was made with harmful materials that made them sick. Before mandated coverage, it's really up to you and your risk appetite. I tend to play it cautious, but you can make your own informed decisions. Alright, now you have an Amazon seller account ready to go, and you understand the basic legal landscape. The next step is to create your product listing on Amazon so that when your inventory is ready, you can start selling. Let's see how to create a great listing, as well as some great tips from Ron. Step number 7, creating a listing, how to add your product to Amazon. With your account set up and product on the way, it's time to create your first listing. In this section, you'll learn how to make a compelling listing that attracts customers, employs SEO best practices, and follows all of Amazon's strict guidelines. Adding a new product in Seller Central. In Seller Central, hover over Create and select Create Products. There are many different ways to create a listing, but we'll choose Blank Form. Click it and hit Start. Now, there are two types of categories when you're listing a new product: ungated and gated. Gated products require pre-approval from Amazon, and ungated products do not. The alarm clock we looked at in sections 5 and 6 is a gated product. So for this chapter, I'll be using a blue throw rug instead. Let's work our way through the components of an Amazon listing using this listing blueprint. First up is the product title. This is arguably the most important. It's the first thing a customer will see. With this in mind, the title should clearly state what the product is and include the main keyword you want to rank for. It's all about the keywords, according to Ron.
Because people search keywords, your product needs to be found by consumers. If you're on page number 10, same with Google, consumers won't purchase you. So you need to be able to basically rank on certain keywords with your product and as high as possible.
He reiterated this point again later in the interview too.
So if you have a good plan, if you have a good brand, then the whole key here is that to get your products up for the right keywords. So Find a way that customers purchase your product on specific keywords that are relevant to you and not other products.
There are also a few general rules to keep in mind. The title must be under 200 characters, not gimmicky, use all caps, or include symbols or emojis. For your first private label, a good formula is brand name plus descriptive name plus main features plus size. Using my blue rug as an example, I'll go with the following. The plush path, navy blue polyester area rug for home, office and bathroom 4x6. If you create an accurate title, Amazon should recommend the proper product type, so all you need to do is click confirm. That will take you to the next page. On this page, you shouldn't have much to fill in. Type your brand name into the fields, for example, the plush path, and enter the external product ID for your product at the bottom of the page. If you worked with a supplier, you should already have a UPC, Universal Product Code, the 12-digit barcode on all products sold in North America for your products. So go ahead and enter that here. Since I haven't sourced the product, I will enter a related ASIN. Under brand name, I'll also check the box next to this product does need a brand name. Note, do not do this. I'm only doing this as an example for this video. You'll want to spend the time to register your brand name and get a proper UPC and ASIN. Now, I'll click next. This is where you will run into a bit of a headache. You'll need to get approval from Amazon for your brand and products. For now, I'm going to say I have an exception. All right, this is where we return to our listing blueprints. On this page, we need to write our product description, create 5 bullet points using secondary keywords that highlight the product, and upload 6 to 7 high-quality photos. This is where all the research you've done on Helium 10 will come into play. You already know the keywords you want to rank for, so make sure to use them in the product description and in the bullet points. I'll do the bullet points first. Important notes. Amazon limits most products to only 5 bullet points. Use them all. Your competitors will. Also, make sure each bullet point is in a separate box. After entering the first one, click the Add More button. All right, here are the 5 bullet points I'll be using. Washable area rug, non-slip backing and secure grip, 100% polyester, fox fur fluffy rug, and fade and stain resistance. There we go. Now, for the sake of time, I'll paste in the product description I wrote off screen. Spend the time to write a description that both connects to human customers as is well liked by Amazon's algorithm. In other words, focus on your keywords, but don't forget your main audience, potential customers. Before crafting your product description, consider thinking of keywords like a funnel. Let's visualize this. At the top are the broadest keywords. These are high-volume words on Helium 10. In other words, the most common queries for a topic. Importantly, these don't have to be directly related to your product, only somewhat related. The next step down the funnel is the core keywords. In short, these are the words or phrases that represent your customer's intent, what they want the product to do for them. Think of it like this. What are common words or phrases associated with your item? If it's a water bottle, then a core keyword could be filtration, stainless steel, or insulated. Lastly, there are the exact keywords. These may not be high volume, but instead have a high conversion rate. For example, stainless steel water bottle is going to be a broad keyword, but an exact one could be 750 milliliter stainless steel water bottle with filtration. Exact keywords are heavily tailored to meet specific searches. Leverage what makes your product unique, its value proposition. Moving on, let's talk about your product images. I cannot stress how important high-quality, well-thought-out images are. They're one of the easiest ways to beat your competitors and get your product ranking higher. I'll let Ron take it from here.
You can do that by having a certain main image that's different than the rest. Maybe you can play with different colors. Like all the products look the same for your keyword. You can act different and use maybe different colors or a different angle of the image so you actually stand out. So those simple things can help.
They really can. And that's why I recommend starting out with a spread of 7 photos. For starters, you'll always need your main flagship photo that shows off your product. Make it just a product against a white background. After that, you'll want 2 lifestyle pictures. In other words, show the product in use and in its natural environment. For my rug, I could include photos of it on the living room floor and in the bathroom. If we're talking about the alarm clock from earlier in the video, then show it on a nightstand or in the kitchen at different times of day. Get creative. You'll also want one image that I'll call the features callouts photo. In short, this is an image with text highlighting key features of the product. For example, consider the image on screen. The customizable interface is one of the main selling points for the clock, so it's not surprising that it gets its own dedicated picture. For a rug, consider a close-up of the fabric or a shot of the grip on the back. Next, we have the size or dimensions image. This is exactly as it sounds. Show the product with its dimensions listed. You'll see an example on screen right now. This is an example of what I mean. The sixth is the comparison shot. This can be another way to show its size or dimensions, e.g. using another item for a size comparison, as well as a time to show the product next to its competitor. The last photo to include is the bundle. In practice, this showcases the product with other products from your store, encouraging the customer to spend more money. Clearly, there's no right way to stage your product images, but following the format we've outlined will give you a solid foundation. I'll just upload my images quickly. Alright, it's finally time to move on. In the center of your screen at the top, select product details from the options. Alright, this page may look intimidating, but it's actually pretty straightforward. This is where you enter all the information associated with your product. Take the time to answer all these questions accurately and truthfully. Before I leave you to it, there's one section I want to talk about. Toward the bottom, you'll see the item thickness section. The first field sounds very confusing. Item thickness decimal value. In reality, all this simply means convert all fractions to decimals. For example, if you're listing shoes and are selling a 10.5 size one, then all you need to put is 10.5. Since my rug is 1.7 inches thick, I'll put 1.7 in the first two fields and set the item thickness unit to inches. When everything's filled out, scroll back up to the top of the page and click Offer. This is where you'll be adding a bit more data, including your price. Don't worry, using the formula and profitability calculator from section 6, you should have a reasonable, competitive price. Before you go filling out this form, make sure to switch the fulfillment channel to FBA, the recommended option. You'll need to spend some time filling in your packaging information, but Helium 10 should have already calculated this. Before we move on, scroll down to the bottom of this page and you will see the option to manage marketplaces. By default, your product will be listed for sale in Canada and Mexico. For a beginner, I recommend turning these off. That way, you'll only be dealing with one marketplace while you're getting started. Once you feel comfortable with the whole FBA process, then you'll want to consider moving into new marketplaces. All right, everything looks good. We're almost done. Let's scroll back up and open the final tab, Safety and Compliance. Everything here is fairly straightforward, so I'll let you fill in the last few remaining details. While you do, there are a few things I want you to double and triple check before moving forward. It has nothing to do with the form in front of you. Instead, I want you to make sure your product is labeled correctly. There are 3 labels you'll want to address. There are the FNSKU. This is an Amazon internal barcode for FBA sellers. In short, this label lets you and Amazon track each product and make sure it arrives at its proper destination. Amazon will accept an item if it arrives without an FNSKU label and apply the label themselves, but you'll get slapped with a hefty fee. This is something you'll want to negotiate ahead of time with your supplier. Polybag. This is the suffocation warning that's required if the bag opening is greater than or equal to 5 inches. This is something that your supplier should handle ahead of time. After all, it's likely not their first rodeo. Still, you'll want to double check this has been handled. Carton. While the FNSKU is unique to each product, each shipment to a fulfillment center will have its own FBA carton label. This is something the supplier needs to handle before shipping the items out, and you'll need to assist them with it. To do that, you'll head to your Seller Central account, hover over Create, and select Send to AWD. You'll follow the on-screen instructions to schedule a shipment And once you're done, you'll be able to generate carton labels for your shipments. To help you remember all this, I've created a short ship to Amazon checklist for you to follow. Here it is. Go ahead and pause the video if you want to take a screenshot or copy it down. All you have to do now is click submit at the bottom of the page, and there you go. While you'll need to wait for Amazon to confirm receipt of your product, you've done the hard work. You've created your first listing. As it will take some time to get everything up and running, let's take a moment to discuss what to expect when launch day finally arrives. Step number 8, launching your products, getting those first sales and reviews. Now your store is online and you've got a product listed. Now comes the exciting and challenging part, managing the launch and finding a market. The goal of this phase is to spark momentum, generate sales, get initial customer reviews, and start climbing in Amazon's rankings for your keywords. Let's dive right in by talking about something I learned the hard way. Make sure your price makes sense. How to optimize pricing for launch. Pricing of a product is extremely important. Sometimes the product and ads are right, but the price is what kills conversions. Adjusting it can completely change the outcome. So let's put what I learned into practice by creating what I'll call the price and coupon playbook. So we have the list price, which is the normal price of the item, and the intro price, or a discounted price when selling a new product. You want to start out offering a slightly lower price than your competitors to generate traction. You don't want to go too low, mind you. Make at least a little bit of profit, but be willing to sacrifice your margin to generate interest early on. For example, if the normal list price is $49.99 and your margin is 35%, consider selling for $39.99. Your margin will take a hit, yes, but it's worth it. Short-term pain for long-term gain. You can also use coupons to try to generate repeat sales. For example, offer 15% off if the customer makes another purchase within 15 days. Again, be careful of your margin. Don't go into the red, but don't worry about maximizing every cent either. There are 2 other key metrics to pay attention to: the click-through rate, CTR, and the conversion rate, CVR. If your ad's click-through rate is below 0.5%, consider implementing a flash sale or coupon. If the conversion rate is under 10%, then focus on optimizing your product's page. Amazon's algorithm, A9, heavily factors in sales velocity and conversion rate. If you get more sales early, Amazon will rank you higher for keywords, which leads to more organic, aka free, sales. While getting started will probably be slow, it's also the land of golden opportunities.
And one very big tip I'll give the beginner or whoever's watching this is that like every product on Amazon has like a honeymoon phase, that's how they call it, which can be explained very easily. Like you place a new product on Amazon, Amazon has no clue what your product, like how it will perform because it's completely new, there's no data. Some say it takes like 2 to 3 months, the honeymoon phase, but make sure that as soon as you launch a product on your account, to have it drive sales like right away for the right keywords. Because if you are just a new product on Amazon and the first week you got like 500 purchases on the specific keyword that's relevant to you, Amazon is like, whoa, this product just got added, it got 500 orders on this keyword. We just put it up in the top 3 right away. So don't waste your like honeymoon period when you're starting out.
That's the best case scenario, of course, but he does raise a good point. Don't launch until you're ready to seriously compete. If that means paying a bit extra in FBA fees to get everything ready, so be it. This includes more than your keywords and product page though. It includes buying ads. That's what we'll talk about next. PPC, pay-per-click, advertising on Amazon. Ads on Amazon run on a PPC model and are a powerful tool for increasing the visibility of new products through sponsored ads in search results and on product pages. Amazon's most common PPC is called sponsored products, which promotes individual listings based on bid keywords. You compete with other bidders for a particular keyword, and you only pay when someone clicks on your ad. What makes PPC so important is that it increases your visibility across Amazon.
And once you rank for a keyword, you have multiple positions in Amazon where your product can get shown. We call it like real estate. So you can have like promotions here, sponsored products here, you have like a banner on the side, and you have your organic ranking.
So, your organic ranking is where your product places when someone searches for a keyword. The higher organic ranking, the higher you appear in search results. Easy enough. But while the quality of your product listing is important, PPC also conditions Amazon's algorithm to think that your product is highly relevant to those keywords. In other words, PPC sales help you rank organically for highly competitive keywords, which at the end of the day is key to long-term success.
But overall, it's a real estate game. The customers need to see you as many times as possible. And when they click on you, you need to be able to get them to purchase. And you get them to purchase to then be different than the rest. So if you keep those two things in mind, then you'll do great.
It's often said that real estate is all about location, location, location. And Amazon is no different. So now you know how important PPC is. Next, let's talk about the 3 types of campaigns you can run using a simple cheat sheet. Auto campaign, the easiest type of campaign to run, as Amazon automatically creates ads based on relevant keywords from shopper search results. This is probably the best way to start for beginners because it's cheap, only $10 to $20 a day. Still, it isn't very precise. For that, we need to talk about the next type of campaign, manual campaign, also called exact or phrase-based campaign. This is where you manually set keywords or phrases you want targeted. This can be great when you get a bit more experience, but something to always keep in mind. Focus only on the best, top sellers. Copy what works, not what doesn't. Negative keywords. So, this isn't a campaign on its own, but you can tell Amazon what words or phrases you do not want to bid for. This is a simple way to save money because you will never bid for bad keywords. So, let's talk about this in practice by seeing just how expensive ads can be and how to calculate your marketing budget. To do so, we'll have to talk about 2 types of ASOS, or advertising cost of sale: break-even ASOS and target ASOS. Let's keep it simple. Break-even ASOS is the highest ASOS you can afford without losing money, while target ASOS is the ASOS that you aim for to achieve a specific profit margin. Put differently, break-even ASOS is your maximum budget for ads, and target ASOS is the figure you need to hit to keep a particular profit margin. So, running a vigorous PPC campaign on highly optimized product pages is the best way to get your initial sales. But what about reviews? Let's find out. Getting reviews the right way. Getting reviews is a slow process, and there's no easy way to speed this up. Instead, all I can offer is some basic advice. Make sure to give your customer an excellent customer experience. This means making sure everything has been taken care of. To the best of your ability, make sure the product is as described, arrives in a timely fashion, arrives intact. If you followed along earlier, you shouldn't be selling cheap, flimsy products. Still, do everything you can to give all of your customers a great experience. And some will take a moment out of their day to leave a review. You can also use the Request a Review button. In Seller Central, you can request a review from a customer up to 30 days after their product arrives. This can be a bit tedious, but it's something you absolutely must do, especially for your first few orders. Now, after you've successfully launched your first product and are generating reviews, you want to think about sustaining and scaling your business, which we'll quickly cover in the next section. Step number 9, scaling and long-term success. At this point, you hopefully have a product that's selling and reviews coming in, and maybe even turning a profit. Now, the question is, how do you scale this into a substantial long-term business? Here are 5 rules for success. Number 1, maintain inventory and avoid stockouts. One of the worst things that can happen when you have momentum is running out of stock. It's better to reorder a bit early than too late. Here's how you can calculate reorders. This is a simple formula for you to remember. Reorder points equals daily sales multiplied by lead time in days plus safety stock. By this point, you should know what your daily sales are and lead times are. But what about safety stock? Well, safety stock is the additional inventory a business needs to keep on hand to accommodate increases in demand or shortages in supply. In other words, it's about preventing your product from selling out. You should always keep at least a week's worth of sales in reserve at all times. Let's do a quick example. If I sell 5 items per day, it takes 40 days for the product to arrive, and I want to have at least 50 extra items in an Amazon warehouse. Then I need to order 250 items. Number 2, expand your product line. Once you have one successful product, a natural way to grow is to launch more products. There are 2 main approaches: add variations of an existing product or a new product in the same niche. Number 3, brand building. Don't forget about building a brand. In the long run, creating a brand pays off. Number 4, customer service and feedback. Closely monitor your product reviews. Maintain that high rating by consistently delivering quality items. When customers have complaints or suggestions, respond to them. Listen to them. Take the time to try and make things right. Number 5, do it the right way. To stay successful long-term, play by Amazon's rules. Avoid suspension triggers, keep customers happy, and stay competitive in your niche. If you do run into any issues, then you may want to use this trick from Ron.
But here's a small tip. If you email your query to jeff@amazon.com, his actual management team most of the times will pick it up. That was at least what I happened, and it will escalate your case.
There are also 2 other things to talk about before we wrap up the video. For the first one, let's head back to Amazon's dashboard. In the top left of your screen, there's an option called Account Health. Right now, my account says healthy. Yours should say the same. You'll want to constantly manage your account's health and solve any issues flagged by Amazon. Common issues that will hurt your account health are a high order defect rate, policy violations, suppressed or inactive listings, and performance notifications. Let's click on Account Health to pull up this menu. Starting in the left corner of your screen and moving from left to right, you'll see Customer Service Performance, Product Policy Compliance, Shipping Performance, and Reports. Monitor each of these sections individually to check for violations. Occasionally, Amazon will also send requests for additional information to the Account Health portal before sanctioning your accounts. So, checking this regularly, at least once a week, is crucial for continued success. You should also make sure to check your KPIs, key performance indicators, once a week. To help you do that, I've created a spreadsheet for you guys, and there'll be a link in the description down below if you want to download it totally for free. Step number 10, free resources. I hope this tutorial has given you the confidence to start your own Amazon FBA business. You'll find a bunch of useful links and additional guides in the description of this video. Remember, every big brand or top seller on Amazon started with just 1 product and 0 reviews. Now, it's your turn. Go make it happen.